Oh, hello there. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Upside. I am Justin, and that is Kyle. Today, we're talking about every fantasy football player's worst nightmare, fantasy busts. More specifically, wide receiver bust. So we consider a bust as a player who does not live up to those expectations due to unexplained ineffectiveness, bad offenses, nagging injuries, increased timeshare, or benching because of talent behind them. Most of these players are not bad. That's not what we're saying here. They just do not live up to their ADP and in turn are labeled a bust in fantasy. So a bust usually comes carrying a higher expectation than most other players and are the players that you're comfortable reaching a bit for during the draft. And then they fall off the rails while in your lineup.
The giraffe.
The giraffe.
Did you say draft or giraffe?
I think I said giraffe.
It's like a is that a giraffe that's like going whitewater rafting? A giraffe. It's like a swim float that's giraffe shaped. I figured it out. Okay. All right. Yeah. I'm good now. I understand. I'm on the same page.
So
you were saying?
Right.
Sorry.
So whenever you're looking at your lineup at the end of the season, you're probably going to have some bust on there if you're not in the playoffs. And we created this podcast, this channel, to help you avoid those. So if you want to check out our other bust episode, we just recorded as well. It was released yesterday. We talked about our running backs. It's up in the corner, or it's also down in the description.
Right now.
Right meow. Right meow?
Right meow?
Right meow. Right up there. Yeah. Listen, we want to help you guys win. We want to help you win your league this year and every year after that. But that all starts with the draft. We're spending the rest of the summer preparing you to dominate your draft. So you win your draft to win your league. So if you want to learn how to draft to win and what moves to make during the season, make sure you hit that subscribe button, click that bell, leave a comment, hit that like, do it all. Do it all for us.
Yeah.
If you have a comment or a question, please leave it in there. We're going to respond to you. We'll give you a shout out if that's what you're looking for. We're going to be here every week.
Feel all warm and
fuzzy.
Season.
Oh, everybody wants to feel all warm and fuzzy.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Kyle, without further ado.
All right. Yeah. Hey, look, like you said, we're pushing out. Yeah, giraffe. We're pushing out that content. We're getting. I think we're keeping a good pace here for you guys. We're getting here to the end of this week, and we're finishing up strong. Hopefully, we haven't decided just yet whether or not there's going to be a mock draft this week, but possibly. You're watching us probably right now on YouTube, or you're listening to us on podcasting. You can find us on a lot of different platforms. We like to list them off. We'll tell you when we get new ones. We got Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcasts is the newest one that we've added. We are working on that victory draft kit. That's going to be coming very shortly, so keep your eyes open for that. Like we've said before, when you do draft that, or when you do draft it, when you buy the draft kit, you're going to get every subsequent edition all the way through up. I threw up. Jeez, wow.
We're really
it's the end of the week, and neither of us can talk. Quarantine has eaten our brains. Yeah, statistically speaking. So look, if you buy the draft kit, you're going to get every edition all the way up through the point that we actually stop releasing editions.
Yep.
So you're just going to pay the one price, and you're going to keep getting it.
Yep.
So that we can help you get to your draft, get you ready for your draft, and get you to that day and get you through that day so that you can win that draft, so that you're in place to win your league this year. All right, guys. We came up with that slogan a long time ago when we started thinking about this channel. And it's really the driving force behind what we're doing is we want you to win your draft so that you literally have a chance to win your league. If you're not one of the guys winning your draft, you are going to probably not even make the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those things we talked about. You can't win your league with your draft, but boy, you can sure lose it.
Yeah.
You can sure lose it. And that's what we're trying to do to help you avoid that.
Yeah. So all right. So let's dive in headlong here.
Let's do it.
Dive in headfirst into the shallow end, right? With busts. Avoid these guys, the busts. All right. So we went over running backs, like you mentioned. We're going to do the wide receivers today. This week, we've only done running backs and wide receivers on the topics because really, we've told you who you should target as quarterbacks and tight ends, and you're only going to draft one of those guys each category. So you're not worried about making the wrong move because you're going to make the right move. These guys is when you start getting the middle and late rounds and early rounds, all that sort of stuff. When you're looking at a depth position like wide receiver and running back, you can make mistakes.
Yeah.
So these are the guys at or near the top of the draft that you got to avoid. All right. Who you got for me as your first wide receiver bust?
My first wide receiver bust is DK Metcalf, Seattle Seahawks. Fantasy football calculator.
We are the only people who do not buy the DK frenzy.
You know what? You would think that you would see some more people whenever I get ready to tell you what the ADP is. You would think more people are saying bust or he can't perform at that level. But man, that train is still it's chugging along right now.
Yeah.
And I don't
didn't we do a mock where he went like 13th overall or something? It was crazy.
It was something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It really was. It was a nice little chuckle for us. But wide receiver 12 was his ADP.
Oh.
9th pick in the 3rd round.
I'm sorry, I just threw up in my mouth.
Take a drink.
Why? Why?
Tell me why.
He's not a wide receiver 1 on his own team.
I'll get to that, Kyle. I'll get to it. You know what I'm getting ready to say.
The hype train, man.
Well, just to recap, last year he did finish as a 33rd best wide receiver in fantasy. He did come on towards the end of the season, so I'm going to give him a little break from the beginning of the season. He was a lot better towards the end. So he's headed into his 2nd year. But you mentioned it. He's still the 2nd wide receiver on this team in both of our opinions.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett is wide receiver 1.
He's got it hammered down, dude. He's got that locked down.
Yeah. Tyler Lockett finished 4th in end zone targets at 13, finished 2nd in catch rate, and no lower than 16th in fantasy points both of the past 2 seasons. So that means he is consistent, and he is Russell Wilson's go-to target. He also has 18 touchdowns, which are the second most in the past
times
2
that
years.
they actually throw it. Yeah, he's the target, right? It's a run
Tyler
first
Lockett's
offense.
not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. So here's some numbers. So let's back away from Tyler Lockett. Let's go on DK Metcalf on some numbers. He ranked 103rd in true catch rate at 70.7%.
That's really bad.
70.7.
Well, yeah.
7 miles an hour.
Yeah.
True catch rate is
7 miles an hour.
True catch rate is reception percentage based solely on catchable targets. Russell Wilson throws a catchable ball.
Yeah.
He wasn't coming down with all of them.
Yeah.
Another one is, DK Mecca, he's a massive human being. He's big, huge frame, great inline speed. And yet he was 39th in yards per pass route at 2.06. Another thing is with that.
They don't throw it. We've talked about this. They really don't like to throw it down the field unless they know the guy is going to be open. And that's Tyler Lockett. He's often open down the middle of the field, right? He runs those post routes.
Here's another one. Target separation. So a receiver's average yards of separation from his assigned defender at the moment the pass arrives, DK was 80th at 1.34 yards.
I mean, doesn't that tie back to the knock on him in the draft that everybody's like, oh, well, maybe that really isn't the case, right? That his agility was really low, actually, that he was just a straight line runner. He might as well be a track guy, right?
Yeah, the athleticism
he had no
is nuts.
lateral.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, he can run in a straight line.
But if you can't cut, you can't get clearance from a defender in the NFL. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to shade a route and turn it. You know?
He was better at route running than what a lot of people said, but it is still a limit. I mean, you could always be better at something where you're way down here already. You know what I mean?
Well, not only that, but shouldn't pure athleticism be its own talent where you are unstoppable from the start?
Yeah.
Like pure speed, Tyreek Hill, right? Pure speed.
Yeah.
But he also can cut and turn, and he gets clearance and separation from defenders. And that's from his rookie year on.
Right. Yeah.
So, It just, it should show up right away. It has shown up a little bit, but it's not showing up as a wide receiver 1.
Exactly, and that's what he's going at. He's going as wide receiver 12, back in, low end wide receiver 1, and
let everybody else make that mistake.
Exactly. All the talks are saying that, okay, Seattle's going to throw it more. I don't know about you, Kyle, but I think they freaking have said that I don't know how many years in a row now.
Did they fire Pete Carroll?
Exactly. I don't think they have.
Let me pull this one up on my computer here. Did they fire him?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they did. Okay. But they're not going to throw it more.
No.
As long as Chris Carson's back, which I think he should be. Even with that, they're still going to put some guys back in the backfield, and they're still going to just run the dang ball. Yeah. Otherwise, Pete Carroll's going to have flashbacks to the freaking Super Bowl and just start twitching out, and it's just going to be done for.
Yeah.
So I just don't think they're not going to throw enough to have 2 wide receiver 1s.
No.
Or even wide receiver 2s. Yeah. If it's going to be somebody, it's going to be Tyler Lockett. So I just, maybe a couple more years.
There's a lot of tight end targets available in that team too, and they
at least 3. Yeah.
They're going to eat up targets, man.
Who are the tight ends?
Will Dissly, Jacob Hollister, and
Greg Olsen.
Yeah,
come on down. That's who I have as my first bust is DK Metcalf. That's not a popular one, probably. Do you have anything else to add on him?
No, not really. I mean, I think that I went out on that limb last episode, and so it's good. It's good of you to join me against the consensus. Like
the water is warm.
I like it here. I'm not going to tell you why it's warm out here, but
dad jokes.
Yeah. Oh, that's warm.
Let it go, man.
Yeah, let it go. There we go. Finally got that Dumb and Dumber reference, right?
Yes.
I mean, if one thing that you got to know about us that you haven't gotten out of us for whatever reason, I don't know why, but like I don't think there's a day that goes by where we don't have a Dumb and Dumber reference. No. And it seems to be that when we click record, Dumb and Dumber flies out of our brain. Like
it's one of those things where
we talk statistics all the time. You could straight up go, well, statistically speaking, Mary, you're more likely to die on the way to the airport. Like there's plenty of that.
It's like, don't worry, I'm a limo driver. But for us, it's like, don't worry, we're a fantasy football analyst.
We're an expert.
We're an expert.
Self-described expert, right? No, we're just guys who've won a lot of leagues and have years of experience doing it. That's all. We're no better than anybody else. I'm definitely not better than this guy who I'm about to knock. Like, who am I to knock this guy down a peg? He's clearly proven that he knows a lot more about football than I probably do. And that would be Keenan Allen. I'm going to take a notch out of Keenan Allen's belt here, guys. I've been harsh on Keenan Allen this year. I know I have. I've beaten him up like a redheaded stepchild, right? And it's unfortunate because he's a good dude.
Yeah.
He's a good wide receiver. He's still very talented. It's not like he's some elderly guy who's just past his prime or something like that, and he's just living out the glory days to make another few $1 million, right? If we could all do that, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, I'm knocking him, and I've got real reasons here. Look, he's wide receiver 15 on Fantasy Football Calculator. He's going 5th pick of the 4th round. So it's a pretty good price. He's being drafted as a wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it. Fantasy Football Calculator is a little bit wonky sometimes on their draft rankings. I don't have his Fantasy Pros numbers in front of me. If you want, could you pull that up? I want to know what his rank is over there. Look, you can't. I've said it before. You can't expect the same results this year with Keenan Allen that you got out of him with Phillip Rivers. Rivers is gone. And he's now got Tyrod Taylor or Justin Herbert throwing him the ball. Most likely it's Tyrod Taylor for at least 6 weeks is my guess. And then we'll see if the wheels have fallen off. And all bets are off then at that point. It's Justin Herbert, and it's going to be a bloodbath, guys. And so would you want to be holding the bag on a guy that you spent a 4th-round pick as your wide receiver 2? Would you want that guy to lose his QB midway through the season and then have a rookie take over the job? No.
Real quick, Keenan Allen, actually in Fantasy Pros, they're listening right now because they are pushing him down. He's at wide receiver 25.
Okay, I was going to guess that they're probably pushing him to the back of wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take him as a wide receiver 3. I wouldn't put him in a flex. I favor the running back in the flex spot personally. It's super flex quarterback all day, but in a regular flex spot, it's running back for me, and it's because I'm looking for consistency out of that flex spot. I want to know that I'm getting points out of that bonus.
You're looking
spot.
for touches. You're looking for consistent touches.
So I wouldn't consider putting him there unless it's just too juicy of a matchup and I can rely on him getting points, but you can't. You couldn't rely on him getting points for you even with Phillip Rivers. We've gone through this before. Last year, he was 5th in targets. He was 2nd in receptions. He was 5th in yards. He was 6th in red zone receptions. And he was also 11th in catchable targets, right? He had all that. Is Tyrod Taylor going to do that? I don't think so. Tyrod Taylor has played 4 games each of the last 2 years, and we've talked about he's scored like a grand total of 6 points last year in 4 games.
Yeah.
So he hasn't had a meaningful start in over 2 years now. There's nothing about Keenan Allen that says he's an incapable person or that he's on the backslide or anything like that, but he is the king of inconsistency when it comes to the wide receiver position. As far as a boom or bust top flight guy, he is your guy for that.
He's almost
That's what you're looking for.
He's like a stat compiler. Because, like, at the end of the season, you look at it and you're like, oh, wow, that was a good season.
Yeah.
But then you look at his game log, and it's just like it's a roller coaster. And it's hard to kind of trust someone like that you're trying to draft as a wide receiver 2. So he's in your lineup every week, and it's hard to trust that.
Well, here's an unpopular opinion. Chris Godwin has turned Mike Evans into that.
Yeah. He could have. I mean, that all depends on what #Twommy does. But I mean, Mike Evans is going down the sideline, and I don't know how far Tom can throw it anymore. So that's for.
I don't know if it's Randy Moss deep or not. Anyway, let's get back to this guy. Last year he had 8 games that were wide receiver 3 or worse, and when he was worse, he was a lot worse. He was like wide receiver 60.
Dang.
Yeah, it's really bad. 4 of those weren't even like wide receiver 3 when he was. A wide receiver, he wasn't even a wide receiver 3 in those 8 games. Like he was that bad. He was like 50th, 55th, 60th, that sort of stuff. So 50% of the time that he wasn't even worth starting in your lineup, he just absolutely destroyed you.
Yeah.
So that's too high of a risk for a guy in the 4th round who just lost his QB. He also only broke 100 yards last season 1 time. Wow. And he had Phillip Rivers, Mr. Huck It and Chuck It, throwing him the ball. And he broke 100 yards 1 time. Yeah, sounds like a 4th round pick to me. He only provided 4 weeks last year as a wide receiver 1. And you're drafting him possibly as a wide receiver 15, meaning that he's an upper level wide receiver 2. He should perform at a wide receiver 1 level quite a bit. He should have very, very few wide receiver 3 days, let alone any days outside of wide receiver 3. Yeah. So you put all this together, and it's going to be a bad season for Keenan Allen. Fantasy Pros is figuring it out.
Yeah.
But those are the people who are paying attention and look at the stats, who break them down the way that we're breaking them down. You're going to be one of those guys who doesn't make this mistake because you're out there looking at this stuff right now. You're watching this video and you're going, oh yeah, that is terrible for a 4th round pick. I'll let somebody else make that mistake. I'll pick a different guy and hope that Kenny Golladay somehow magically falls in my lap, and or Marvin Jones in the 8th round, or stupid stuff like that, right? So look,
Marvin Jones is going to have a better year than Keenan Allen. That's for sure.
I would take that bet. Take that bet.
Yep.
So here, let's make it bad enough, right? Let's make it worse. Let's make it worse, guys. I'm going to get really bad for you here. Bottom 10 schedule. I hit this all the time, right?
Yeah.
2019's fantasy points allowed to this position is a bottom 10 schedule this year for him. So the teams they see this year, last year, they didn't give up. They didn't give up to the wide receiver. So you're betting, and let's run it down the list here. You've got a new QB, possibly a rookie QB. You've got a guy who is very consistently not a wide receiver 3 or better.
Right.
Very consistently, right? Half of the season.
That's where he's consistent
He broke 100 yards one time last year. And then you've got a bottom 10 wide receiver schedule. If you
Sounds good, I'll have that.
Yeah. That's soup du jour, right? Look, if you're going to draft him, you're doing so at your own peril. I think the last time we were talking about him, I said draft him at your own risk. I'm saying now you're drafting him at your own peril. You will screw your team over by making moves like that. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to make mistakes in the draft. Don't make the ones that you can avoid.
Right.
This is one of the ones you can avoid.
Just by doing a little research with us. You're
going to miss out on a couple spots here and there. That happens. You're taking flyers, taking chances. Take chances that have upside.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So avoid guys that don't. This is one of those guys who doesn't. There's just no upside here. There's really not at that draft cost. And like I said, he's not a bad wide receiver. He's not. He's just not the 15th wide receiver in the league anymore. Not in his scenario. You switch him over somewhere, a different team with a better quarterback, and give him an opportunity to like be a little bit more consistent because he's not the only target and all that stuff, or that they
I would love to see Keenan Allen on another team where he's not like wide receiver 1 for the team and he can just feast on that slot. I mean,
or he's not competing with the tight end and the running back for 2/3 of the passes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's really been the problem with Phillip Rivers the last couple of years, is that he checks down a third of the passes.
Yeah.
And that he loves throwing to the tight end. He defaults there. He throws it really deep. He throws it really short to the tight end, and he throws it behind the line to the running back. Those are the three options with Phillip Rivers.
Right.
There is no in between. There's no like 12-yard out to the wide out, right? So
well, hopefully this year there will be with the Colts.
I would imagine. I don't know. They want to feature that. They're like, wait, he throws to the running back accurately, and he can throw a deep ball too. We have guys who can catch those. We drafted a couple of them.
Or just actually throw it down the field.
Oh yeah, rather than just holding it and waiting for the world to collide into him.
Yep.
Sorry, Jacoby. All right, so that's wide receiver bust number 1 for me. What do you have as your second wide receiver bust?
So you're talking about upside. You want to, avoid someone that doesn't have upside. And this guy, in my opinion, doesn't have much upside. That's Stephon Diggs of the now Buffalo Bills. Fantasy football calculator, wide receiver 22. 5th pick in the 5th round. So, a little backstory. Diggs was traded to Buffalo. He spent 5 years with Minnesota. He had 3 top 25 finishes in a row before this trade. So he's been pretty good when it comes to fantasy. But now he goes to a low volume, run first, Buffalo offense, led by the inefficient and scramble heavy Josh Allen. We've mentioned this many a times. Those aren't design runs. Those are just Josh Allen scrambling because he'll do one read and then go.
Well, because he knows he's going to throw a terrible pass.
Exactly.
He's like, that guy's not open. I don't want to throw a terrible pass to him. I'm going to take off.
Right. Which, in fantasy for Josh Allen, he's not a terrible QB to have because of that rushing floor, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about wide receiver.
To that floor. Yeah. But we're talking about Diggs and
It's not quite there. Here's another thing, Kyle.
If you're drafting Diggs, you're banking on Josh Allen having a jump in skill.
Yeah. A big jump.
Like consistency, efficiency, targeting ability. Like he's not, these aren't things that you suddenly have.
Well, speaking of targets, the Buffalo Bills have the lowest vacated targets at 35 in the league. That's the lowest in the league. So, he's going to get his, but it's going to cost, John Brown. It's going to cost Cole Beasley. They still like them. So it's not like they've, they traded for Stephon Diggs and they let somebody else go. That's not what happened.
Well, and Beasley also offers a closer to the line of scrimmage target than
hopefully
Stephon
easier
Diggs
target
does. Yeah. Well, he's got great hands. I mean, you don't stay in the league that long playing the style of play that he does as a smaller guy without being a very strong at the point of the catch kind of player. And and he offers that in a closer targeting range that's easier for Josh Allen to make sure he's hitting than the 20-yard pass down the field to Diggs on the run. Like he wants that stopped receiver at the 10-yard turn. So
So here's another thing. So back on Diggs, like last year, and basically the Bills are thinking this too. Like they traded a first round pick to get him.
Mhm.
They're expecting him to be a wide receiver 1. But whenever Adam Thielen went down last year, he was barely a wide receiver 2 in fantasy purposes. He finished
I
as a
think
wide
he only
receiver
had
20.
probably one time or two.
Yeah, he
times
was
that
wide receiver
receiver
24 whenever Thielen was hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, that you would think with Thielen down, there's really not much other wide receivers there in Minnesota.
He
that
needs
would
the attention
catapult
off
you.
of him. He needs the attention off of him.
Exactly. And I mean, for
Who's
all
going to take the attention off of him in the Bills? There's nobody.
exactly. John Brown did pretty well last year as a late. He was consistent. Actually, he had the most like 75-yard games or something like that or more. He was on my team, so that's one of those little nuggets there for you. This is another one. Stephon Diggs only had 1 red zone reception last year. Maybe that's just Kirk Cousins. Maybe that's. But here's the thing with the Bills, though. They like to run in the red zone. Yeah. Or Josh Allen likes to scramble into the red zone and just pound it in that way.
Yeah. Well, and they're moving Singletary to the third down back too, so they're going to have more opportunity to pass even on third down in the red zone.
Yeah.
And not to Diggs.
Right.
He's not a big guy. He's not a big target in the red zone too. Like that's not his game necessarily.
His game is that deep ball. Yeah. That's what his game. That's what he was dependent on with Kirk Cousins. Allen can throw it deep. He can throw it deep. May not be as accurate, and so can Diggs come down with it. He ranked 36th in drop percentage last year at 6.5%. That's not a good sign for all the faults that Kirk Cousins has. He's probably more accurate than Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Here's another thing. You like to talk about this when it comes to strength of schedule. They have the 31st hardest wide receiver strength of schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're gonna, he's gonna give you some good weeks when he does connect downfield, but it'll be hard to count as a wide receiver 2 week in and week out. That's not his game, I think.
I'm going to give you another thing, right?
Yeah.
He has to face Stephon Gilmore 2 times this season.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. About that.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good.
Come down to the office.
Probably the best player. Yeah, probably the best player on the Patriots at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Nah, Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, it's Rex Burkhead. It's Rex Burkhead, who's like 34, 35 years old and has like one of the highest cap hits on that team.
Sorry.
But he's going to play. Yeah, he's going to make the team.
That's what I got on Stephon Diggs. Do you have anything else on
I don't. I think you're right there. I think you're correct. That's an overpayment for him. I think that you could bet or hope that he's a wide receiver 3 this year. I think that's where you should consider him.
At the end of the season,
a wide receiver 3. Yeah.
At the end of the season, he will probably finish as a wide receiver 3.
Yeah.
But it's everything in between.
But you're going to have very inconsistent stuff getting there.
Very inconsistent. Yeah. That's the issue.
He'll have a few games that he blows up and
he'll throw a wide receiver 1 numbers in there.
Just hope you're not facing him that day. Like that's basically like the thing about him is what
I thought the fantasy football upside told me to stay away from Stephon Diggs. He just blew up for 30 points. What the hell do they know?
Yeah. It's like Terry McLaurin, right?
Yeah, first game.
Week 1, yeah. And then literally nothing after that. Marquise Brown as well.
Yeah, that's more like Marquise Brown and Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
They're a little bit more of, holy cow, and then we're good.
Wait, no, Sammy Watkins. There you go.
Week 1, even better.
Number 1 overall. The rest of the season, never broke wide receiver 3 again.
What was he, like 60th after that?
Yeah, it was really bad. It was really bad. Oh, man.
All right, what do you got for
your
drafting?
Nobody drafting Sammy Watkins. Everybody's betting on Mecole Hardman, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well, that makes sense.
All right, so my final bust concern here would be Courtland Sutton.
Ooh.
I know that's also not a popular opinion, but hey, I just don't see it. I don't see it the way that other people do. I'm going to give you some numbers. Again, we talk about how crazy fantasy football calculators ADP can be.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you how it's crazy relative to some other things right now. Okay. Fantasy football calculator has Courtland Sutton as wide receiver 35. It doesn't sound so bad. pick 10 of the 7th round. The
Yeah.
last time we spoke, he was like pick 12 in the 7th round or something like that. So not so terrible. But you jump over to Fantasy Pros and you see that he's wide receiver 17.
Wow.
Fantrax, wide receiver 17. And so when they have the consensus on Fantasy Pros, they've got him listed as wide receiver 24 because they incorporate Fantasy Football Calculator's numbers because they're based on real mock drafting, right?
Right.
So they've still got him as a wide receiver 2 as a consensus, but on their individual, they've got him like mid-level wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
On both of those. So, okay, look, yeah, he's the wide receiver 1 on the Denver team. Emmanuel Sanders is gone now. That's great. Grand, wonderful, right? Except
good.
Let's all think back to when Emmanuel Sanders was traded to the 49ers last year. Can you remember what week that occurred? When did that Courtland Sutton explosion come? When did that happen? It didn't.
I'm gonna guess
it didn't happen.
Wasn't?
Yeah, I'm not telling you, or I'm not joking, that if you go and you look at the game by game log for Cortland Sutton, and you don't know the week that Emmanuel Sanders was traded, just by looking at Cortland Sutton's numbers, targets, catches, points, all that stuff, you will not be able to determine when Emmanuel Sanders was traded. You have to actually go and hunt that information down. And then you look at it and you go, there's really no change. Nothing happened. Nothing happened.
Okay, we got 5 catches, 1 catch, 4 catch, 5 catches, 4 catches. Those are his last 5 games that he played.
Yeah. And Emmanuel Sanders was gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough for wide receiver 17.
Yeah. That's a really high price for that guy. And I think part of that is that Drew Lock he's not a great QB. Like, he's just not. Like, he has a chance to be really, really good.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he is. Like, he's got a lot of growth to go, right?
Yeah.
I think that he's struggling in similar ways to a lot of these younger guys, and 1 or 2 of them will break through. It could be him. But you've got Baker Mayfield, who's struggling. You've got Kyler Murray, who for everything that you've seen out of him, people were like calling last year a bust, and I'm like, he's a rookie QB thrown into the fire, right? Like, come on,
an Arizona offense,
yeah, with Cliff Kingsbury too. And then you've got Josh Allen, you've got Sam Darnold, you've got McDreamy, you've got Tua Tagovailoa that's going to start this year probably.
You want to hit that one more time?
Tua Tagovailoa.
There you go. Good job.
Yeah,
proud of you.
There's no N in it, but there is an N in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, last year he was a solid wide receiver 2, right? In almost every stat category that you look at, he was a solid wide receiver 2, but he did not finish as a wide receiver 1 in any single category. But he did have a number of wide receiver 2 finishes, so that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And I think that his ability to take a step forward is more dependent upon the ability of Drew Lock to improve. I've already hit it like that. Look, you look at what happened with Emmanuel Sanders leaving, and nothing changed for him. There's no difference. So you're hoping that, okay, they let the guy who was performing as the wide receiver 1, they let him go. They trade him away to get some draft capital. And then the guy who they're hoping is going to step right in as a wide receiver 1 doesn't do a damn thing, doesn't do anything to help out. Just nothing. From week 12 on, he was only inside of the top 36 wide receivers one time. One time he ranked as a playable guy, as a guy you could have put in your roster. He averaged 4.5 catches during that same span each game, and he never broke 80 yards. This is a big guy.
One game he had 2 touchdowns, and
he
didn't have any other touchdowns the other games.
And he only had like 30 yards in that game or something too.
It was low.
Yeah. Last year, Denver was 25th in pass plays called. So you've got a low volume pass offense. You've got a guy who's not getting targeted at wide receiver 1 targeting level. And then he's not performing as a wide receiver 1, but everybody's saying, oh, he's borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. That's what's happening. He's moving up. He's trending. You're going to hear more chatter about how great Courtland Sutton's going to be this year.
Right.
Right. And he's being drafted in that area that is a heavy price for a wide receiver to miss on him when you're supposed to be drafting the guys who are consistent at that point. I mean, I'd rather have Robert Woods than Courtland Sutton.
Oh, all day.
Yeah. But they're going around the same area.
That's true.
So why would you take Courtland Sutton, who's a bag of question marks, in a system that doesn't favor the pass, and he's not performing as a wide receiver 1 when he's featured as a wide receiver 1?
Yeah, Robert Woods is going right after him, and then the guy we've mentioned previously, Tyler Lockett, is going after that.
Yeah. 2 guys who are big play capable and very consistent.
Yeah.
Very consistent. Especially Robert Woods. Last year was an aberration in his career. He still had a good season, but he was very inconsistent last year. He was a yardage hog who just wasn't getting any TDs.
Yeah.
So let's make it worse for him. They added a pass catching running back this year, right? So he's going to get some attention there. And then I literally have notes here to myself, terrible stats. All right. This is bad. His catchable target last year, rate of catchable targets, 73%. That's good for 78th in the league. So when they went to him, they didn't throw a good ball to him. Right. So that's not his fault. Right. So let's not knock him for that.
Right.
Target quality was 65th in the league. But here we go. His catch rate, 57.1%. A receiver catching 57.1% of the balls. Yep. Sounds like a high-end wide receiver 2 to me, right? That's 82nd in the league, guys. That's not even a wide receiver 7. Like, what is that about?
That's a guy on the waiver wire.
Yeah, his fantasy points per target last year, 1.77. That's good for wide receiver 4/5. That's 47th. But yeah, let's knock 30 off of that and say he's 17th in the league. So look, Fantasy Pros is pretty good for a lot of stuff. Apparently, rating Cortland Sutton isn't one of those things because this is a trash opinion. It's really bad. So yeah. All right, that's it. That's you got anything to add in there on them?
Yeah, I mean, you talked about Melvin Gordon as a pass-catching running back. You didn't even mention one of the best wide receivers in the draft class, Jerry Judy. Yeah, fell to them at number 15, and then they came around and picked up KJ Hamler out of Penn State, and I think the second round.
Yeah.
So they added weapons to that offense where, like you said, they were ranked 25th in pass plays. That's
and they added competition for him.
They added competition. I mean, it's going to be hard to replicate the 124 targets that he got.
But doesn't that kind of scream out that they don't believe that he's a wide receiver 1 or like high-end 2? They're looking for somebody to take over that job.
It screams out that they need help. They're hoping that, Jerry Judy could be a wide receiver 1, which he very much could be just with his route running ability that is just off the charts.
Yeah.
He could be. And maybe they're thinking, okay, Courtland Sutton's good, but he's good as a wide receiver 2 on the team, not in fantasy, just on the team.
Ultimately, he strikes me as more of a really big possession receiver.
Oh yeah,
that's how I kind of think.
If that's what you're able to do,
but that's not a price that I'm going to pay for. I'm not paying that.
You're not doing that for wide receiver 17. No. You just can't do that. If he is your back end wide receiver 3, or you throw him in your flex every once in a while, or you have him as your depth. Yeah, that's where you really would like some value out of him. But
I hope that he either falls and you can get him as your 4th wide receiver or so.
Yeah,
or that you hope somebody literally reaches for him in the 3rd round, 4th round.
That's
what you should hope for.
That's one less player that you have to worry about, and that's your draft board is just looking that much better whenever you let somebody else draft him in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah. All right. Those are our wide receiver busts, guys. We're off the bust topic for a little while. We'll probably readdress it when camps start and we start to see things shake out, see what players are where on the depth chart, that sort of stuff. All right. Once again, don't forget to give us a like down there, click subscribe, make sure you hit that bell so that you get notified every time we upload the best fantasy football podcast on the internet. And
Yep.
thank you again for being a fan of the Upside, and we will see you guys next time.
See you guys.
Bye.